There's so much going on. It's hard to believe it's the last Tuesday of July or of June. July is like around the corner. And for a Tuesday in June, there can't possibly be so much to talk about, yet our list is endless tonight.
As you and I were looking at the rundown, which you always put together, I'm looking through it, and I text and I go, wow, we could spend 8 hours talking about this. There's a ton of sports news right now. It's crazy how much there is that's going on in the offseason for football, going on in the offseason for basketball, going on with the NFL, NBA stuff going on, coaches at the Utah Jazz being just so many bits of news and things to talk about. It's crazy this June.
So settle in with us. We got 2 hours. Let us know where you're watching from. Get to Twitch and sign up for free, and then you can ask us questions. Chad Lewis is going to be with us in a few minutes. You can ask him a question. We'll talk about his big career here in the NFL and what he's doing right now at BYU and how important the Cougar Club still is as the Cougars march into the Big 12. We got big basketball news, developing stories out of the Big 12 and the ACC. Zach Wilson's Super Six moments as an independent.
That's right.
We'll break those down. He was on with us on Media Day. And we're going to take a look at some of the NFL camps and when Tyler Algier and Wilson will reunite as opponents in the preseason, which, by the way, is just around the corner. We get into July. We're talking about teams showing up in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. And then preseason's before you know it, and we'll get to see Tyler Algier back out on the field.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be an impact player in the NFL this year. I think he's going to be a star before it's all said and done.
I hope so, and we wish him all good health. Wish everybody good health, but we'll see him a lot in the preseason as they try to figure out, what can we do with him? What can we do with that? So that's coming up, and Danny Ainge finds his new head coach for the Utah Jazz. But let's start with Mark Pope, who has finalized his roster. Remember, I had all those guys leave. There were 10 guys that left after last season, whether it's graduation or the portal or just a walk on being done. So he went to work to put some pieces together. The last one comes in yesterday, 6'11", 210-pound Noah Waterman from Savannah, New York. Where's that from, where you're from?
So I grew up just south of the Finger Lakes in Elmira.
Okay.
So just south of Seneca and Cayuga Lake. Cornell University, which is in Ithaca, New York, is on the very south end of Cayuga. And where he is from is just north of Seneca Lake.
Okay.
So he's actually right in between Syracuse and Rochester, just south of the Great Lakes, just south of Lake Ontario, and Lake Erie is just to the west a little bit.
And he's coming from Detroit Mercy, where he played in 36 games last year. St. Bonaventure was the school he was going to commit to in the portal about a month ago and changed his mind, commits to BYU. How big of a get is this?
It's huge because we've been talking about this for the last couple of months, and we kept saying, oh, wow, they signed another wing or another guard. That's great. They can use a guard. Oh, they signed a guy that can handle the ball. That's good. They need it. But what they really need is they need a stretch 4-5 guy, a 6'9" or bigger guy that can come in and can spell Foose and Atiki a little bit, but can also make other teams go out and defend on the perimeter. So we were saying all along, can they find a 6'9", 6'10" guy that can shoot threes and do a good job from out there, and force the other team's bigs either for them to go small, or there's bigs to chase him all the way out to the perimeter, like some teams did to BYU this last year. That's what we were looking for. He's exactly that. He's a 6'11" guy, 210 pounds, that can go out on the perimeter and has a really nice stroke. Shot 44% from the three-point line over 36 games that he played in that season at Niagara or at Detroit Mercy.
Yeah.
He's a kid from a really small town. I think that town's probably like 1,700 people total. He went to a small Christian school in upstate New York. St. Bonaventure, that's an interesting. St. Bonnie's has been really good over the years. When you think of St. Bonaventure, you think of Bob Lanier and how good they were back then. But they play in the Atlantic 10. It's in western New York, really rural. It's in Olean, right on the New York-Pennsylvania border in snow country. So he had an offer from them, had committed, and decided, you know what, I'm not going to play in the A-10. I'm going to go out, and I've got a few years of eligibility left. I'm going to play in the Big 12 with BYU. I think that's really cool.
He's got at least 2, maybe 3 years of eligibility. We'll see how that works out. But what this signing tells me is, and the waiver's in, so the NCAA's got to give him access to play right away, but that's the process that everyone's going through now to be able to play this season. But what it tells me is that Foose and Atiki are the centers Well, maybe they get a big brick wall center. If Foose can be the 4, that's not going to be it. But the other team center's got to go out and deal with the 6'11" three-point shooter, which should free up Foose from some double teams.
Well, and he's even played the 3 at 6'11", so he's fairly athletic and he can shoot the basketball. So, hey, I just have to say, Obi Grace just reached out to say, y'all are distracting me on my last hour of work here in Honolulu. For some reason, just the fact that he's in Honolulu doesn't make me feel bad for him.
and you're not even going to go surfing for another couple hours.
It's all good though. I'm glad that you're with us. And they're asking who's going to be the standout on this BYU boys 7-16, saying who's the standout on this team.
Well, here are the transfers. They get Jackson Robinson
and Rudy Williams.
Rudy Williams.
Right.
Robinson comes from Arkansas. He's going to be on Sports Nation over on BYU TV tomorrow, I believe. Rudy Williams from Coastal Carolina. Braden Moore, freshman, big-time prospect, I think out of Tennessee. And then the 3 return missionaries, Dallin Hall, Richie Saunders, and Tanner Toulson. So 7 new faces to replace the 10 departures from last year's roster, including 3 to graduation, 6 to the portal. So of that mix,
who's the star is what they're asking.
Yeah.
And I think Foose is going to blossom. I mean, he was a star as a freshman because he so outperformed what we thought he would do as a really raw talent and a young player. He was really good. He's going to get nothing but better. So Foose is going to be a star. He's long and athletic. He's not tall, but he's long. He's
long
He's
arms.
only like 6'6", 6'7", but he's got his wingspan is over 7 feet, so he can go in there and play in the post. And his ability to get off the floor and elevate is ridiculous. He just goes right over the top of people. He can defend in the paint. Atiki has got like an NBA type of a body.
Yeah.
He's still a little bit raw. I think he's going to have one more year of development, but he's going to contribute a lot more. I think Foose is going to be a bona fide star. And I think Gideon George is going to come back, and he's going to have to take a bigger role. So on the outside, on the perimeter, he can be a lockdown defender. He can score off the dribble. He can shoot. I think having Gideon George back, and that wasn't a for sure thing there for a while as he was testing the NBA waters. To have him back, I think Gideon's going to be a big star on the outside. Then I think guys like Trey Stewart, who people haven't really heard much from, is going to be a contributor.
You know who my wild card is?
Who is it?
Spencer Johnson.
If he can shoot threes like he did at the beginning of the season last year, because we know he can just lock people down on the perimeter defensively.
He could be a starter.
He could be really good. And then one of these new guys, whether it's Williams or Robinson, who are more wings guards, or it's Noah Waterman, who's going to come out and give them a different look, a stretched big guy at 6'11", or is the freshman at 6'8", going to give them some more presence inside and some versatility in Braden Moore. I'll tell you, of the guys coming back from a mission, Dallin Hall is a complete player. People forget because it was 2 years ago, but he is really good with the ball in his hands. He's a distributor. He's a scorer.
He could be it.
He could contribute right away. And I think Tanner Toulson's going to come out there and knock down some shots. This group coming off missions, remember, this is Mark Pope's first mission class in his time as a head coach that he recruited that went out on missions that come back. This trio is really skilled. They can all shoot. They can all score. So Hall, Saunders, and Toulson, what do you bet one of those guys ends up being an integral part of what they do this fall and winter?
And you know what? I'm not disappointed that all those kids left, and I'm excited for all the kids that have come. I think if BYU returned the same team as they had last year, they took 5th place in the WCC. That's not acceptable.
Nope, not at all.
This new group gives you a chance. For one, there's intrigue because you're like, how are these pieces all going to come together? And the new addition to the coaching staff for Mark Pope. But finishing the roster is excitement for basketball. Now I'm eager to see him come out of the locker room.
I think this is going to be a really athletic team.
Yeah.
So I think this is a team that's going to get out and run because even those bigs, you think about like Atiki and Foose, they're thoroughbreds out in the fast break. They get out and run out on the perimeter. Noah, the new addition as of this week, he's a big guy that can run the floor. And Braden Moore, the freshman at 6'8", he can run the floor. So all of the bigs can run. And then we know that the guys that are coming back can run. The 3 return missionaries are guys that can run. I think this is a team that's going to have the ability to really play some fast break basketball, which is fun. We love going to the Marriott Center and watch teams get up and down the floor. When they can fast break and score in transition, especially at the Marriott Center. They're hard to beat.
Shout out to Coach Pope for getting the roster finalized. We look forward to having him on the show as we get closer to hoops. Let's talk football for a moment. Big story out of the Big 12. Looks like they have a commissioner. Brooklyn Nets CEO Brett Yormark, the current COO for Jay-Z's Rock Nation, also a 6-year veteran with NASCAR. So he comes in with entertainment and professional basketball, professional management into the Big 12. You don't see any collegiate experience in there. Is that a big deal?
I think that this is the trend. Remember what just happened with the Pac-12 when they got their new commissioner? They went to the former executive of MGM entertainment properties, right? Yeah. So the guy was running everything that you for so many years saw happen down in Las Vegas, and whether it's sporting events and big-time boxing or UFC or any of that kind of stuff, but all of the entertainment properties of MGM, and he moves over to the Pac-12. Because college athletics, big-time college athletics, it's the entertainment business. You have to have people that understand television contracts, how to promote things, and this is what he brings. Plus, you know how I love hip hop and Jay-Z.
I know you do.
You know? Jay-Z's a hip hop guy. DJ, am I right? Jay-Z? Is Jay-Z not the most powerful man in the music business?
Jay-Z needs a new CEO.
Yeah, Jay-Z is a producer. He's a great performer, but he's a producer. Who doesn't like Jay-Z?
So here's what he's got.
Oh, wait a minute. Who's Jay-Z's wife?
Beyonce.
Let's not forget that. Thank you very much.
So, I'm surprised I knew that.
If he's running the stuff for Jay-Z and Beyonce, he's good enough for me to run the Big 12. That's all I have to say.
So here's what he has to do. Here's the to-do list. One, you got to replace Bob Bowlesby, who's been there forever. You got to negotiate the new TV deal with the all-new Big 12. The current deal expires after in 25. You got to oversee the exit of Texas and Oklahoma. Maybe it's good to have someone come in that's got no baggage one way or the other with those two. And then you've got your first football schedule to release coming up in a few months in October. That's a lot to get going, in addition to 4 newcomers to the league.
And Bob Bowlesby's done a great job.
Yeah.
I like his background because I think of the list that you just put together, he's got people that are left in that office that understand scheduling, right? They can put that together in a heartbeat. That's what they do. Texas and Oklahoma, pretty much with the announcements this last week that they're staying, and the teams that are coming into the Big 12 are coming in a year earlier than they thought, with the exception of BYU, which we always thought was going in. But all of that's kind of baked. The most important thing that he has to do is go out and negotiate that new TV deal. Yep. And all of basically it's the entertainment rights to cover the Big 12. That's what he's good at. And so I'm excited to see when he rolls up his sleeves and get going, how creative he can be with giving Big 12 exposure that they deserve. And hey, this is a league now that's goes from the Rocky Mountains all the way back east,
West Virginia,
and it goes north to south, right? So it's got a big footprint and needs a lot of promotion. And the better this guy is, the more dollars they're going to come into everybody's coffers, including BYU.
Brett Yormark, we look forward to getting to know him. They'll roll him out, I imagine, at Media Day for the Big 12 coming up in a couple of weeks once we get into July. All right, here at home, BYU football, Landon Chambers, 6 foot, 210-pound running back from Keller, Texas, commits to the Cougars this week on his Twitter page, offers from Navy and Air Force. That's all I read. Once I saw Navy and Air Force, I thought, runner, tough kid, disciplined, a good fit for BYU, school record in rushing and in touchdowns at Fossil Ridge High School in Texas. Part of the 2023 class, but I look at Navy and Kendi Amatololo, and I look at Air Force and like, we got their running back. That's got to be good for us.
Yeah, and I'd tell you, Kenny and Troy Calhoun at Air Force, they only recruit kids that they know can make it at the academies, and it is a grind.
Yeah.
And their academic rigors there are more. That's Ivy League level. Right? Especially if you're majoring in engineering or aerospace engineering or something like that. The fact that that's where he turned down tells you, he's going to fit in very nicely at BYU. He'll be a smart player that's disciplined and very, very tough. That's exactly what BYU needs. It fits really, really well.
How about Maury Bamba? 6'3", 190, defensive back, junior college transfer. He tweeted he's 1,000% in, not 100%. He went 1,000 from Tyler Junior College in Tyler, Texas. Tanner Jacobson was his coach over there in high school. How big of a deal is Bamba?
This is a big deal because Bamba had an offer from Auburn and chose to not go to the SEC but come up to BYU. And Tanner Jacobson I'm sure had something to do with that. Talking to him about the great experience that he had here at BYU, both as a graduate assistant and as a player. Remember, Tanner started as a freshman at Texas Tech, and then transferred to BYU after his mission, and had a wonderful experience and contributed. And he was a big part of that. But this is a big defensive back that's very skilled.
And with Isaiah Heron retiring due to health. He comes right in. He's got 3 years.
This is important, and I like the fact that he comes with 3 years. So that's another good get for BYU. It just the BYU football continues to add to that roster quality talent that's going to help them not only this year with a P5 schedule again, basically, but as they transition to the Big 12 the following year.
A couple of notes before we get to Chad Lewis. Pat Hickman's the director of recruiting, comes back from Virginia, where he had the same position there. Jan Jorgensen, the defensive analyst, I know you talked to him yesterday on Sports Nation. Back to help the defense. Well, why not bring a guy that sacked more guys than anybody else with his 30?
Jan's going to have so much impact. He just understands technique so well. It'd be great to have another guy out there that can just watch and help these guys with technique and help them prepare. I'll tell you, Jan's a grinder. He was an ultimate fighting there for a while.
Yeah, yes, he was. That. I wouldn't want to see him in the ring if I was on the other side of that.
Would not want to.
We'll talk about Andrew Mickelson here in a bit. The ACC today announces their scheduling format. Starting in 2023, they're going to scrub the Atlantic and Coastal divisions and go with a 3-5-5 formula. Each team will play 3 primary opponents every year, and then they'll face the other 10 league teams twice during a 4-year cycle, once at home, once on the road. And then the 2 teams with the best conference winning record get a play for the conference championship, and it's their design to get into the Final Four. Is that a good model for the Big 12?
I don't think so.
What don't you like about it?
I think for the ACC, one division was dominating all the time, the division that Clemson was in, right?
Yeah, right.
And so they had a strong division and a weak division, and they're just trying to look for a solution. But to me, there's not any flow to that. It's almost like you're not playing. I would prefer to have 2 divisions. You play crossover games. I like the way the Pac-12 set up with that. I like the way the Big Ten set up. Where there's divisions, SEC set up that way. You have divisions. You win the division championship. You play for the league championship. ACC's mixing it up. I respect the fact that they're trying to think in a different way, but I would prefer divisions, and you play for a division championship, and then you play for that championship.
We'll see.
Just like our guy that we're going to talk to right now, Chad Lewis, played in a division and then played Wyoming in a WAC championship.
Got a touchdown. Our guest tonight is the author of the book titled Surround Yourself with Greatness, which is also the motto of this show. And so we've tried to surround ourselves with Chad Lewis.
That's right.
We are surrounding ourselves with greatness. If you want to ask Chad a question, hop on our live stream, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. And
let's tell a little bit about Chad while we're waiting for him to get in and talk about. Right now, he's the Associate Athletic Director for Development, and he oversees and works with the Cougar Club, the organization that your dad, Dale McCann, founded and grew to support the BYU athletic program. The legend.
Many moons ago.
Yeah. Tight end from 1993 to 1996, 2-time first-team All-WAC player. He's in the BYU Hall of Fame, inducted in 2007. 2 stints with the Eagles, right?
Yeah.
So 1997 and 99, then he was with the Rams in 99 through 2000, then back to the Eagles on their really good run, 2000 to 2005.
Look, he's just listening to us read all his accolades.
Most importantly to you, but not to me, is that he was a captain of the Orem Tigers, your alma mater.
Golden Tigers.
So served a mission to Taiwan. Before his mission, went to Utah Valley State College. His wife, Michelle, still the best athlete in the house without question. They have 5 children. You mentioned he authored the book, Surround Yourselves with Greatness.
And Chad's with it. Hey, Chad, how long did it take you to write a book?
It took me a year to write that and publish it. It was a great experience. 7 kids, though. I had twins at the end. They're 13.
Oh, Bam. That's right. That's right.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Wait, 7 kids. Who else matches you other than Reno Mahe? Of all the legends, is Reno the only one that can match you?
I think that's probably right. It's probably Reno.
I just saw Reno last night at a Little League baseball game, by the way.
Has he survived is he out of traction now after coming in and catching a pass in the alumni game?
It was so good. Yeah, exactly. So good to see him. And he and Sonny at this baseball game. So we all had hugs all around, and he just, Reno Chad. Does that guy ever not have a smile on his face and a positive attitude?
Great teammate. I love him. So positive. Always so good to people. Just incredible.
So in The Lion King, you got Uncle Scar has a classic line in there that he's looking down at the hyenas. He says, "I'm surrounded by idiots." What is the key to being surrounded by greatness?
When I say surround yourself with greatness, and the title of my book, Surround Yourself with Greatness, it's not surround yourself with the greatest people ever. It's surround yourself with people that make you better. Surround yourself with music that inspires you as opposed to degrades you and takes you down to Chinatown. Watch movies that lift you up instead of strip your soul out from inside your body. So greatness means the stuff that edifies, that builds, that lifts, that brings light, that inspires. And that's what we're talking about when we say surround ourselves with greatness.
See, this is why my parents were always happy when we were hanging out with the Lewis kids.
That's right. That's right.
If you're around good friends, there's a really good chance you're doing good things. Not all the time, but there's a pretty good chance that that's going to work out.
I want to talk to Elder Holland about this because this is a wives' tale 10th version story. But I was told that when someone asked him, "Would you rather your kids have a great testimony when they're teenagers or great friends?" And he said, "I'll take great friends any day."
Wow.
Because they're going to get the testimony if they're around great people. And that to me sounds like something he would say. So I need to talk to him and say, "Did I hear that right?"
Hey, we have a lot of people that they'll come on this stream with us, and BYU Boy 716 saying, "Hey, what is Chad's favorite movie that lifts him up?" He's interested to know. You say watch great movies that lift you up, and then also Obi Grace, who's over in Hawaii with us, asked, "What's your favorite song that has that similar effect?"
Let's start with the movie. What's
movie
your
first,
movie?
and then song that lifts you.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, they're asking. Our live stream folks are asking.
Gosh.
They're like, "Hey, ask Chad this. We want to know."
There's so many great movies. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life at Christmas Time, Rudy, any football show. Remember the Titans. That thing is sweet. Everyone should go watch that thing again. But there's just so many powerful movies that lift and push and make you see things in a better. Same thing with music. Like when I was at the Philadelphia Eagles, I needed the strength of great music. And that's when I was listening to Motab driving into work. So "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." And I'm trying to be like Jesus, and I'm bound for the promised land. I'd crank that up and I'd rip down the highway, and I would go into the locker room like, okay, I got this. I wanted to walk in that locker room with the power that I needed. And it totally changed me.
Now, there's a good chance that when you walked into the locker room, Mormon Tabernacle Choir was not on the loudspeakers with the team. So how did you hold all that together? How did you blend the two worlds?
I'll say this. Sometimes the music in the locker room or the weight room was so foul. I'd tell my weight coach, I'd say, "Hey, I'm going to come back and lift later. This is jacked up." And so I'd come back and lift on my own when I had to. Foul music is just not cool. Like it's hard just to ignore it. Sometimes you have to. In life, sometimes we have to absolutely ignore the crap that's around us. And that's part of life. Life is not supposed to be all rainbows and sunshine and flowers. Like we have to figure it out.
I think he just went Rocky Balboa on us there.
He did.
With it just came right out.
And they both have roots in Philadelphia. It's all about Philadelphia. So our some of our followers are asking what years you were in Taiwan and what mission.
I was 90 to 92. Kent Watson was my main mission president, and Tim Stratford at the end. I was the Taiwan Taichung mission, so the south, the middle of the island down to the south, and greatest place in the world for me.
And many people that have followed your career know that you played an important role for the NFL as a liaison to China because of your ability to speak Mandarin. And talk about that experience a little bit and how that helped you grow.
When I went to the Pro Bowl, the NFL asked me in Hawaii, "Hey, we want to do a lot more stuff in China. Would you be willing to go over there and be an ambassador for the league?" And I said, "Heck yes, let's go." And so that's when I did the Super Bowl for the first time in Mandarin. It went live, and I told the NFL, I don't know if this is going to work because I speak missionary Mandarin. That's different than just everyday lingo. And
That's different from Super Bowl Mandarin.
Correct. So I'm doing the broadcast with the John Madden of Chinese broadcasting, Mr. Han. And I was saying, Tom Brady, Chuan Han Jung Chit. I testify that Tom Brady's throwing true passes. And they're like, that's a very interesting way to call a game. And that's what I did for the whole broadcast of the Super Bowl. It was like my entire missionary database just flooding on there. That's all I had.
That's awesome. Hey, who was the greatest football player you ever suited up with?
Wow. Sheesh. Great question. I'm looking, I had Donovan McNabb and Brian Dawkins on my own team.
Yeah.
Oh,
Donovan threw for 1,000,000 yards, turned that city around, turned us into a perennial winner. Brian Dawkins was the most lethal defensive player in the history of the game. I was with him yesterday in Philadelphia, and just talking to him, I just remembered his intensity and how he wanted to remove your head from off your body. And he just hit with such ferocious anger. And he talked in his Hall of Fame induction speech about the depression and the dark places that, that would chase him, the demons. And I tell you what, he played football like he was being chased. That guy he's something special. I mean,
he's one of my favorites. One of my favorites of all. One of the greatest to ever play that position in the history of the game. So that's cool. Those are teammates of yours. Who was the best you ever played against during your time?
Ooh, man, Ray Lewis. I have a picture in my office of me and Ray Lewis going at it. I'm catching the ball on the 5-yard line. He's tackling me. He's face masking me. No call, no penalty.
He got away with a lot of that. He got away with a lot of those things.
He was one of them. That dude was a beast. He went sideline to sideline so fast. He had more energy than you can even comprehend. This started pregame, and it went through the game, and it went to the end of the game. Like normally, if you start screaming and hollering, you're tired in 20 seconds. That dude sustained it for 3.5 hours.
Have you ever seen the video of Chad Ochocinco trying to go down and crack walk on him?
Yeah,
then he had him mic'd up, and he goes on the sideline and like, "What's wrong with you?" Like he's all dazed. He goes, "I tried to blindside Ray. He ran over me. Like he ran right over him like he didn't exist."
That's right. So I mean, Michael Strahan had to block that dude.
Oh man,
New York Giant, absolute beast.
Yeah.
Just so many great players. My first catch, my first start was I was with the Dallas Cowboys, going against the Dallas Cowboys, Monday Night Football, first play of the game. I run up to the line of scrimmage and I see their nickel coverage and Deion Sanders is guarding me. I knew it was a play called to me. Ty Detmer was the quarterback, and I thought with Deion on me, there's no way Ty's going to throw it. And sure enough, I ran my route. Ty stuck it on me. Deion tackled me. And I stood up and I was looking at his face and I tapped him on the top of the head. I was like, "What's up, Deion?" I've seen him so many times on TV. The next play, my personnel's off. So I run off the field, and Luther Broughton, the tight end, he's my backup. He was like, "You're so stupid. What'd you say to him?" I was like, "Man, I just said, 'What's up, Deion?'"
That's
and
awesome.
he's like, "Oh, bro."
Hey, is there a difference in how winning feels when you're in college as opposed to in the NFL?
I would say it's more intense in the NFL, like from the head coach on down, from the owner on down. It's just like so intense. The win is beautiful. It's a great deodorant, covers up all sorts of garbage. And the losses are also so intense.
Yeah.
I mean, so intense. And that's why one loss can bleed into 2 losses, can bleed into 3 if you're not careful. That's why Andy Reid had such a gift at being able to snap a losing streak quickly, get back on the winning thing, just, how he does it. And that's a good question. Few people have asked me that.
There was
intense in the pros.
There was a nice connection for you. You had Andy with you in Philadelphia, a BYU connection. Reno was there for part of the time that you were there. We came back and stayed, and Vi was back in town as a broadcaster and with you. And Brendan and I came back with the kids and spent some time with you guys when you were all back there. It's kind of nice little happy family back there and a lot of connections back to BYU. How special was that, and how different was that, that you had that opportunity to be there with some close friends with the same kind of ideals and goals and thoughts that you have?
Oh, man, save me. We called it BYU East. Ty Detmer was there. Morris Unatoa was there. Tim McTire was there. Through the years, we had Justin Anna, Reno Mahe, and so many great teammates, and it all worked with Andy Reid as the head coach. And then in the locker room, game day, and during the week was my bishop, Vaisik Kahema. So he lived down the street at his house all the time. That was one of the Philadelphia, was being with Vi and Keala, feeling the spirit in their home, reading the scriptures with them all the time, sitting around at their table for 3 hours talking BYU stories, Eagle stories, laughing, crying. I just felt like I was the luckiest football player in the history of the world.
When I think of Chad Lewis, I think of this play, and we're going to show it. You may not be able to see it, but our folks will be able to see it. After losing to Utah 34-31 in 1993, you're a walk-on freshman, and the Utes have gone down to the north goalpost, and they're going to rip them down right in Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
I ran in there, and I just went flying in the whole group of them and got them off the goalpost, and then they all turned on me and were cussing, and we started swinging and pushing. And the best part for me was my brother Mike, who played for Utah just the year before. He jumped down on the field, and he was standing right there. Like, if they were going to start taking shots on me, he was with me. And my brother Dave was there. And it was super intense. Brian Hughes came in, right after me. And then I remember our linebacker coach, Claude Bassett, one of their players punched him right in the face.
Oh, man.
And he had a huge cherry on his cheek. I didn't know that until Monday. We had a next game against seems like we played UTEP or something the next week. And Claude Bassett pulled me out of practice, and he's like, "Hey, that thing you did after the game against Utah, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life."
But it was iconic because of how you became a leader on that team as a kid that was just trying to get on the team. And when you talk about seizing moments in your life, and maybe at the time you didn't think that might have been the smartest thing to do once you got in there, but as you look back at it, that was a key turning point in your legacy.
Yeah. What's interesting is one of the things that makes BYU great is so many people at BYU, whether walk-on or scholarship, who have a deep love for BYU, not a casual. They love BYU. And wearing the Y on your head and uniform just means so much to take the field to represent BYU with everything that it stands for. And that's part of the glue that makes BYU such a powerful force in all sports, but for me specifically football. And I felt like that moment, I wasn't thinking like, hey, this would be a great time to show my teammates how much I care about this place. It was like, bam, bam, running.
Yeah.
And it was so deep in me. It was like, hey, we're fighting. You want to rip down our goalposts? No, that's you beat us in the game. 54-yard, swinging draw field goal. It was an amazing kick, but that was just too much. And so the fight was worth it. And it was deep inside of me. So it wasn't something I really thought about.
And sometimes you just have to fight, right, Chad?
Yeah.
Like I was actually, I don't know if I've ever said this on the air, but BYU's playing Coastal Carolina. You were, I don't know if you were there or you were just watching like we were in the studio. And they cheap shotted Zach Wilson down onto the field. And I wanted somebody to go beat the crap out of that guy. Was I wrong in wanting somebody to do that?
No, I thought he took it to such a crazy level.
Yeah.
That was way out of normal football. That went like, you remember when the dude from Green Bay did that to Jim McMahon? It was that same level of craziness. Something snapped. And I felt like that was just way, way too far. I'm with you. That was just too much.
And
that wasn't football. And
I asked later, and I was talking to Gavin. I'm like, Gavin, I can't believe that some of our somebody didn't run out there and just deck that guy and get him off of him. And Gavin said, here was the problem, Dad. We were like, the play was down the field, so far down the field. Everybody was focused on the play. Nobody saw it.
Wow.
He said, believe me, if anybody saw that, half the bench would have been on top of that guy. I said, okay, I feel better about the team now that you just told me that.
Because it was at the end of the half, right?
Yeah.
And he chucked a Hail Mary or something down there.
It's just like that. I was disappointed that he didn't get defended. That's your quarterback. You got to go defend that guy.
Yeah.
So,
well, Chad,
that was crazy.
Now your passion is in a different role as the associate athletic director over development. That includes the Cougar Club, which we're all passionate about. Here comes the Big 12. And so let's start with this question here. How important is Cougar Club now on the eve of the Big 12, and why should folks feel like they need to be a part of it when all we hear about is how much money's coming toward BYU as being a Big 12 member?
Oh, we're definitely going to get more money being a part of a strong, Power 5 conference. There's no question about that, and we need it. But we also need to improve LaVell Edwards Stadium and all of our facilities. So the type of money that it takes to compete, look, those teams, Texas, Oklahoma on down, they have plenty of money. Do you think they fundraise? Do you think they go after it year after year after year? Still 2022, you better believe it. Why? Yeah. Because it takes money to win. It takes money to have the resources for your teams. Football on down. Football carries the day for every sport, unless you're Kansas, and basketball carries the day.
Yeah.
But those teams, that's what you have to do as a fan base, as a donor group. If you care about your team, then you rally and you support. And it's in that rally and supporting that there's energy generated. The team feeds off of that. The school feeds off of that. Everything improves. The way you recruit, the way you travel, the way you hopefully improve your facilities. And you do that so that your student athletes have the greatest chance to have success, to win, have a great experience. And yes, there's a balance in there. When I first took this job, Tom Holmel said, Chad, if all you're worried about is getting shekels, you're in the wrong business. I want you to connect with these student athletes, get to know them, be a mentor, love them. And if you can do that and raise money, then you're going to be successful and you're going to love this job. I do love this job. I love BYU more than ever. I love the student athletes that I get to know and to see what they go through behind the scenes. You guys, you see it and you know it as well. Those stories are amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful.
One thing we noticed through the Cougar Club, and I grew up in the Cougar Club with my dad, is that it is a way for a fan to feel invested as opposed to just have my ticket up in Section 7, rows 2 and 3. And we saw that coming out of your 84 championship team and the groundswell of BYU had just won the national championship, but the swell of the Cougar Club was, I want to be a part of this in a different kind of way other than someone who paints his face and goes to the game and yells for 4 hours. What is it about the investment? And whether it's $20, it used to be you could be a Cougar Club with $25 or $100, $1,000, or now it's $1 million on the other end. But what is it about this power of investment that you're looking for from the fan base?
We need people's investment of time, resources, money to help us go forward. But what's interesting is, and I alluded to it on Media Day when I referred to Elder Uchtdorf when he said, people on a cruise, if they're not eating the food, they're in their cabin just eating crackers because they don't want to spend extra money eating food. The food's already paid for. Jump in, live with your privileges. Don't live beneath your privileges. I want people who love BYU to jump in, to be a part of it, to help the work of helping these student athletes become our community's next leaders. I want them to be a part of it because when you're a part of it, everything is so much more fun. You're alive. You connect to the coaches, the student athletes, and it just helps you embrace the whole thing. When you just watch without helping, it's easier to just either not be as much invested or to just be like, who cares about that? Those guys need a better coach. When you're a part of it, you feel it. You feel the spirit of it. You feel alive. I need to do a better job of sharing what I feel right there But that's my best answer for
There's a question
tonight.
from Dr. Ketch.
Yeah, Dr.
Glenn.
Ketch says, how do regular people support the effort? We're all friends with Ryan Smith, and Ryan donates in a big way. A lot of guys, donate big dollars, and they're really visible in the way they do it. And a lot of our friends have been blessed with great success in the tech business, and they've given back in a big way. But what if you don't have a bunch of money that you can give? How do you support this effort when you don't have a lot of means?
I know we definitely have the Blake Roneys, the Ryan Smiths, the Nick Greers. We have so many great donors, but the Widow's Mite is just as important to us. When we did the All-In campaign in the middle of the pandemic, we're $20 million in the hole. And Tom sent out that video to Cougar Nation, the whole globe, saying, hey, we need you now. We need your help. We're hurting. Everyone responded. We had 4 people over 100 years old give like $20, $50, $5 with a note saying, I wish I could give more. And it was so powerful to see people give what meant something to them. And I just, from the combination of the efforts of all the people, we got back to being flush. We got back to being in the black. That doesn't happen if we're just relying on the big people to pay big money and the rest of us are just kind of coasting. Like, if you can give $5, give $5 and you're in. If you want to give $1 million, give $1 million if you have it. I would never pressure or push someone to give more than, what they could. I don't want anyone to run faster than the strength that they have, but I want them to be a part of it and feel it. There's so much joy in being a part of it.
Did you hear the subliminal Back in Black reference from Chad Lewis, our favorite
Chad,
band?
Everything always goes back to AC/DC with this guy. I don't know what to do.
Listen,
I don't know what to do.
Question came in, and this is a good one. And then we got the 6 top performances in the Chad Lewis reign at BYU. We want to go over, and then we'll let you go. And we sure appreciate your time today. But how do people sign up for the Cougar Club? That's a question coming in tonight.
Just jump online, go to the Cougar Club, cougarclub.com, and it's very easy. Sign up. You can do, the lowest members, Y fan, it's $5 a month, $60 a year. That's one Big Mac. So I would love every member, every person in Cougar Nation to also be a member of the Cougar Club. So yeah.
And Cougar Nation shows up, before we get to the top 6, how fun has it been to go on the road with this independent schedule and to there's so many stadiums as we get out on the road once in a while with a team. You're out there with them. When BYU takes the stadium over, they've had multiple stadium takeovers on the road because Cougar Nation is pretty special.
I mean, we didn't take over Tennessee because they had 100,000 people there, but the pregame to see the amount of Cougar fans that were there blew me away. And then to have that game, and then Nebraska and Wisconsin and Texas, some of those big road victories, and the amount of Cougar fans that were there and how we all celebrated. That doesn't happen with just a normal fan base. It happens with BYU and the Cougar fans around the world.
All right, Chad, we're going to roll out 6 of your top performances, and then we want you to they're not necessarily in any order per se, but then tell us what comes to your mind as soon as you hear the stat. We'll finish up with this one. You want to start?
Yeah, start. So the first one is 7 receptions, a touchdown, versus number 13 Texas A&M on August 24th, 1996 to start the season.
Ty Detmer. We watched Ty Detmer on a highlight tape the night before the game. He had both shoulders separated when he played against Texas A&M, and he was in training camp for the Eagles. And he said, I don't got no love for Texas A&M. They're not going to respect you guys. Don't give them none. Go and hit him in the mouth. And just watching him, our team was riveted. I'm telling you, we were ready to go. That was everything.
All right. 2 catches for 43 yards. That's not lighting it all up. A touchdown, but it came in a big game against 19th ranked Wyoming, December 7th in the WAC championship game. I still remember you're in the back of the end zone and Sark hit you, and it was game on.
Yeah. Itulamili, he had his knee blown out in the first half. We ran a naked bootleg. He was first level. I was second level. he caught it. Jason Lee or someone hit him low, their safety, and his knee just did a helicopter. We went into the locker room. Our team did not want to come out in the second half. We did not want to play. We were sick. I was so sad. It took us a while in that third quarter before we got playing again. It was really, really hard. So when I think of that WAC championship game, as important as it was to get us in the Cotton Bowl, it was Tulamili.
So now that takes us to exactly what you're talking about, the Cotton Bowl. 7 receptions, 79 yards. You're playing number 14 Kansas State, January 1st, a New Year's Day Bowl, 1997.
Shane Muirbrook with all of his sacks, Steve Sarkisian throwing the lasso and the rope around Chris Canty, who was out with cramps, and Lavelle Edwards, first January 1 bowl game victory. We wanted to win that so bad for Lavelle, and that was a big game.
You grew up your whole life watching games on New Year's Day. What did it feel like to take the field in one?
Oh my gosh, we couldn't sleep the night before. Couldn't wait to play in it, and to walk off that field victorious. Holy smokes! There was a sea of purple in the Cotton Bowl that day, and the sea of blue walked out really happy. We did it. We fought. We overcame every challenge. We did it. We won that big game.
All right, let's go to 1995. 3 more of the top performances for Chad Lewis at BYU. San Diego State, September 16th, 6 catches, 102 yards, your only 100-plus yard game, and a touchdown.
Yeah, that game was huge because we started the year, we got beat by Air Force, and then we came back and got beat by UCLA at home, and people were like, okay, we're off the bandwagon. And as a team, we fought and we beat San Diego State. Tim McTyer had a huge pick 6 in that game. That was a fun game. I just remember catching those passes and just feeling like they could not. Sometimes you just feel like you can't be stopped, and that was one of them for me. I just felt like I don't care where they throw it, I'm catching it, I'm making plays. We're going to win this game.
Hey, I've thrown some balls to Chad back when he was playing. He'd be home in the offseason. I'd be out there and throw some balls. Just let me tell you, pretty much anywhere you throw it, Chad's catch radius is gigantic. He catches the ball everywhere you throw it. I love throwing to Chad back in the day. Okay, Chad.
I didn't get in the math line in heaven, but I did get in the catch football line.
Yes,
and I stayed in that line.
That's a good line to be in.
So next one is 9 catches, 84 yards against Arizona State, October 24th, 1994. Arizona State, the Sun Devils.
Yeah, that was a big game because we played UTEP the week before. I caught a ball down the middle, and someone hit me in the back, broke a rib. Every time I bent over, my rib was popping. Ole Jokinen taped me up for that game. He was our trainer, and went out in that game and played with a broken rib on my back. It was crazy. During that game, I caught a little pass over the middle, and I didn't go down on the first hit or the second, and I was able to pitch the ball to Jamal Willis. He took the thing 75 yards to the house. That game, we lost that game, but I learned something about myself, that I could play through injuries as long as it was manageable and wasn't going to destroy me. I learned that I could play through a little bit of pain. I learned that you got to play really, really well to beat good teams. And as much as it hurt to lose that day, I learned a lot about myself and my team.
All right, let's finish with December 30th, 1993. 4 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown against Ohio State in the Holiday Bowl. And considering all that you went through just to get on the team, to catch a touchdown in San Diego against the Buckeyes to wrap up that first season.
That was big. Norm Chow called my number down a couple times on a drive. The first time I ever jumped over someone was in the UTEP game, the game before. And so I felt like, okay, I'm jumping over everyone. And I caught a ball. It was naked bootleg to the right. John Walsh threw it. I caught it. I jumped over the DB, but I didn't see the middle linebacker come from the inside. And he launched me in the air. I landed on the ground, and I separated my right shoulder. I was hurting so bad. I was not breathing. And you were covering the game. I remember you just, watching the replay. Just it was so crazy. 2 plays. I go out I'm laying under the bench trying to breathe. And Coach Chow's trying to run the next play. And we got 10 guys on the field. He's like, what the heck? Where's our tight end? And I'm over there going, ugh! And finally someone's like, dude, you got to get out there. So I went out there. I caught the one-handed touchdown pass. And for me, that put me on the map. A big game, a bowl game, freshman, Ohio State, catching a big touchdown. I just felt like I can do this. I can make this a career. If, good things happen, I'm lucky, I grow, I get stronger.
It's amazing. No one knows that you had such trauma. They just go, man, Lewis, he can catch anything.
Yep.
But the setup story is amazing.
And the thing, Chad, is like now it's really eating at me because I'm thinking about that Ohio State game, and I played against them twice, and they got us the first time. It's the only game I've ever played in where I thought, man, they need to do a running clock because if they keep going with this thing, we're going to lose by 100. And they knocked Steve out of the game. Their two linebackers hit Steve. They helicoptered him. They had to take his ear pad out because his helmet was on sideways and his nose was sticking out the ear hole. They took his ear pad out to get his helmet off. And I'm like, well, he's out. I'm in for the rest of the game. I go in a couple plays later. Steve comes trotting back on the field. I go, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm in. You're out. And so I go out, and Holmgren goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm out. He goes, well, who's in? I said, Steve. He goes, Steve's not in. They're supposed to take his helmet. I go, he's right there. Eight is right there. And he played the rest of the game. He played the rest of the game. But so we lost that, and then we lost to them in the Citrus Bowl in 85 when we were better than they were. We lost in a close game. It was like 10-6. We need to play Ohio State again and beat them. We owe them. We got to get them back on the schedule. Let's play them in a bowl.
You know what's cool about that story is you captured the essence of Steve Young right there. Like there's a stubborn toughness that belies and that underwrites his great physical abilities, his speed. It was this toughness that he was not going to be defeated. And that toughness is what cut through his anxiety that he wrote about in his book.
Yeah,
that's just him. That's his essence right there. Like. At some point, that dude is one tough son of a gun. Oh,
he is. Well, and if Steve tells you you're out, you're out. I don't care what Mike Holmgren said. So I was out.
He must have learned that from McMahon. You just follow those guys. He's the author of Surround Yourself with Greatness, and he's surrounded us with greatness tonight. Chad Lewis, the Associate Athletic Director over Development at BYU. Great player, great pro player, full of stories. We hope to have you back again another time because you're a treasure trove of, first of all, the fans love you because they love your energy, but your stories, you lived it. And most of us grow up dreaming of living it. You lived it, and we sure are glad for your time tonight.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on. It's great being with you guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks Chad.
Yep.
How about that? Where some of the responses in going, such an awesome play, talking about that Buckeyes touchdown. Didn't know you were injured, as they're writing to Chad on our live stream.
And somebody asked, is Steve Young going to play in the alumni game? I don't know.
He says he is, but same thing with Ty. They both kind of side commitments.
So when they asked us to broadcast it, so the guys came up to us and they said, hey, Blaine, would you be willing to broadcast the alumni game? And I looked at him and I gave him I just wanted to see the reaction. I was like, yeah, I guess, but I'm a little bit offended. And they go, what? And I said, I want to play in it. And they go, oh my gosh, do you really want to play? No, we feel so bad. That's the complete oversight. Like, no, absolutely. If you want to play, you can play. And I go, no, I'm just kidding. I have no interest in playing.
I figured someone had called your doctor before that.
I have no interest in playing whatsoever, but I just wanted them to feel bad for a minute. We'll stick to broadcasting.
Chad was in the game briefly this past spring, and we look forward to what's going to happen next spring. Great to have Chad Lewis with us. This will be up on the podcast too, and you can listen to his stories over again.
All of his big catches. So I'm thinking one of the biggest catches he's ever made. He caught a touchdown in the NFC Championship game to send the Eagles to the Super Bowl.
Beat the Falcons.
And he broke his foot on the play.
Yeah.
And didn't get to play in the Super Bowl. And so, Chad has made some unbelievable plays, and he's endured some big-time injuries. That was a Liz Frank fracture, the same kind that Taysom's incurred twice in his career. So,
a couple former Cougars in the news as we continue on the Wise Guys here, ysguys.com, and hit that purple button, sign up for a free Twitch account. That'll allow you to stream with us And we're getting a lot of reaction tonight. It's good to have you with us. Our goal is to create the largest community of BYU fans in the world here in primetime on a Tuesday night. So let us know, too, where you're watching tonight. Fred Warner married over the weekend to Sydney Hightower. Congratulations, Fred. He's emerged as one of the best linebackers in football. Last July, he signed an extension worth $95 million with the Niners.
Yeah, and well-deserved. He's been, if not the best linebacker in football, in the top two.
Yeah.
Pretty clearly one of the best players in the league defensively. He's been in the top 5 defenders in the league, period, when he's been healthy. And so that's well-deserved. And, hey, little note on Sydney. First of all, she's cute as heck, right?
Yeah.
What a great power couple. But Sydney has a little bit of fame of her own, as she was a contestant on The Bachelor. And so,
yeah, I read that. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, so Sydney was on The Bachelor. People will recognize her from The Bachelor, but she got the real deal this time. This isn't pretend television.
No.
She got the real deal. She definitely traded up from anybody on that show to Fred Warner, who's a quality individual and an amazing human being.
San Francisco opens the season against Kairos Tonga and the Bears in Chicago on September 11th. NFL training camps, and the reason we thought that was kind of important to talk about is it gives you an idea of how close we are. The rookies report for the Bills and the Raiders on July 18th. That's in 20 days.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And when they report, they don't unreport. They report and they go right to the season.
Right.
Full squad, first team with full squad are the Raiders on July 20th. And Algiers got his calendar ahead for him.
Yeah, he reports to the Falcons on July 19th, the full team, because they have a rookie camp for a week. Their full team reports on July 26th. And then that first preseason game, Raiders play the Jags August 4th. And that's the exact same day as the first full day of camp for BYU.
You know why I like that? It's the Hall of Fame game, and none of the stars play in it. It's horrible football. But in all my years of working TV news and sports, whenever that game came on, it meant that there was always going to be football on through the Super Bowl.
It's like, here we go.
You just got to see it. It's on network TV. And it's like an old friend. It's back, and it's not going away.
And when you and I watch it, we just go, okay, for real, here we go. Because that's when we start doing Countdown to Kickoff and Post-Game Live and After Further Review. And all the shows we do all fall long. And then that takes us right into basketball season and then basketball. So we know when that Hall of Fame game starts, our weekends are pretty much taken up until the spring. Until the snow thaws, or maybe even a little beyond that. We've got our work cut out for us every weekend.
Algier is going to debut at the Lions. I don't think Jamal Williams will play in that early preseason game, but that's where he'll come. You got the single season rushing leader coming up against the all-time rushing leader in the NFL for two former Cougars. And then and I was thinking Zach and Algier play later in August on a Monday night. That might be a good night for a live stream.
Yeah, that would
be on the NFL Network or ESPN, and we could watch that with everybody and kind of just react to what we see.
Yeah, that could be fun.
That might be a fun
good
one.
idea.
Another former Cougar I talked to today on BYU TV on Sports Nation, Andrew Mickelson. Maybe you saw it over the weekend. 40 seconds knockout into his MMA fight, his 4th amateur fight. I watched it. It was impressive. Gives kickers some more street cred. And he was on Sports Nation this morning. He was on Pat McAfee's show this afternoon. And he's getting some props for doing what we hadn't seen kickers do.
He was a tough guy in that thing. Yeah. And this was his 4th fight. And he's 3-1 now. And he looked really good. Now, Jan Jorgensen, who pursued a career for a little while in UFC, we had him on Sports Nation Monday. Is today Tuesday? Yeah, yesterday. Yeah. We talked to Jan, and Jan said, "Oh no, I watched it critically. He's really improved, and he's getting good."
We asked him what's next for him, and he goes, his wife doesn't like his MMA career, so they got to work that out. But he was on 177 kickoffs during his BYU career, and so as we talked about it today, you kick off, you get to go down there and hit people. You know, Matt Payne did the same thing. And so this wasn't a kicker that was hidden behind the line of scrimmage and kept from contact. he'd kick it off and go down there and start looking for people to hit.
And Andrew's always in the gym. He was a strong guy. We were teasing yesterday on the show because the guys asked me, like, could you last longer than 45 seconds in the ring with Andrew? And I was like, of course I could, because I would use old man
Did you hear what I
strength
said about you today?
Yeah, I heard. And here's the thing. You got to love Andrew because he respects his elders.
Yeah.
And he's also,
that is true.
And he's also a good friend. Gavin coached him, and he was very respectful. He would knock me out so fast.
We were talking about your strategy of moving around, and I said, Blaine thinks that octagon's a lot bigger than it is. And
I would tie him up at first with my old man strength.
We asked Jimmer. Jimmer was on the show today, and we said, hey, if you became an MMA fighter, what former teammate would you like to face in the octagon? And it took him less than half a second to say Jackson Emery.
Oh, he would fight Jackson.
Jackson Emery.
Why would he fight Jackson?
Because he said he's slowed down. He's got poor shins. He'd go after his shins.
He's going after the guy that's falling apart. That's
he would take him out.
I'm telling you, Andrew represents like the new wave of and kind of how kickers are right now. Have you taken a look at BYU's punter and starting kicker? First of all,
Rico.
They're both NFL guys.
Yeah.
So Rico he's almost a no miss guy. Talking to Lee Johnson, like he can just stand there and just 65, 70 yards one after the other. And Ryan's got to be 240 pounds. He is big, strong, lean. Looks like he could start at outside linebacker on an NFL team. An incredibly gifted athlete. So he'd be great in the ring. And then if you haven't seen Jake Oldroyd gets in the weight room too. He's a big, strong dude. These guys don't look, if you see them, they were coaching Cougars Cubs camp, and I had a couple of grandsons there, and I was looking at them thinking, man, these guys, you wouldn't pick them out as kickers. So and they're just trying to keep up with Andrew. Andrew's got the big tough guy image now, and now BYU's punter and kicker. I would put Rico and Jake Oldroyd up against any punter-kicker combo in the country. First of all, punting and kicking. And then second of all, for pure physical, size and strength, I put him up against any combo in the country.
It's going to be interesting to see if Rico gets to kick enough to get into the national stats to where he competes as the best punter in the country.
Because the offense is too good.
Yeah. He scored too many touchdowns. That's not great for the punter.
The scouts love him, though. They come watch him just boom it into the ceiling at the indoor practice facility.
Coming up in just a bit, as we are in our second hour, Zach Wilson's Super 6 plays from Independence. And we remind you the season premiere of After Further Review, that's just around the corner, Tuesday, July 26th, 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain on BYU TV, on the app. And we kick off our season-long coverage with a 1-hour special on Tyler Algier, Run into History. That literally is just around the corner. We had Stadium of Fire, 4th of July, and then all of a sudden it's After Further Review.
Which, by the way, folks, my guy right here hosts the Stadium of Fire again this year. Are you the master? What do they call you? Just the host or the master of ceremonies?
It's a different kind. I don't even know what the word is.
What's the word for what you do?
But I don't know. Somewhat of a host. I've got my part with introducing the honorees, and I get introduced Marie Osmond.
Yeah.
She comes on the stage. And Tim McGraw is going to be the headliner. It's almost sold out. I think it'll be sold out by tomorrow. I've got a story in the Deseret News coming out later this week. I went to Tim McGraw's songs, and I picked out a set list. If Tim McGraw was singing a set list for BYU's football season. So it's the name of the song and a reason why it would apply to a certain team on the schedule. It turned out pretty good. That's coming out later in the week.
So when we're just going to call it hosting. When you're hosting, do you get to just hang out with Tim McGraw?
Our trailer's right next to his, so there might be some of that.
So you have a trailer just like a movie star or something.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I hung out with Keith Urban for a little bit when he was here. That was like I really loved that. It was awesome for me.
Well, remember when you and I were back doing the West Virginia game, and we stood on the sidelines and had a really nice visit with Brad Paisley's dad.
Doug
And
Paisley.
Doug's been a good friend of Dave's. And every time Brad's been out here and he says, let me take care of you guys, I've been out of town every time he's been out here.
If they'll come back this fall, we'll go. Now, we went up there with some friends because you were gone, and I went and got a BYU shirt for Doug, the dad. The dad drives the bus. Doug drives the bus. And we gave it to him as a present when we saw him at the concert, and he took us up front and all this stuff, and we gave it to him. He disappears. He comes back. He's in the BYU shirt.
I love it.
He goes, and it was just, I think it was just like this one, a short sleeve one. He goes, this is what I'm wearing to drive the bus.
I love it.
And they're big West Virginia
Yep.
boosters and all that stuff. But first class, and McGraw's first class, and I'm emceeing the awards gala at the Convention Center Thursday night. That's kind of a big deal. It's just a super week.
It's a phenomenal week, and it really is. It's such a great tradition here in Provo.
And there'll be 4 jets. I can tell you this: 4 jets are buzzing the stadium.
Yeah, and our last year, one of our for the BYU Utah game, one of our BYU alums was flew the lead. I don't know what you call it, but
they came in low, they came in high.
Yeah, he was the squadron leader, whatever you call it. See, Dave gets to go to Brad Paisley and hang out with Tim. I just get to go to golf tournaments because I just went to the Masters, and I have a dilemma right now.
I know what your dilemma is.
Because I just got invited to go to the British Open.
Yeah.
But it's in a couple weeks, and the airfare is ridiculously expensive, and it doesn't time up. I'd have to fly straight from there right in the weekend back to LA for another commitment. And so I don't know. I need help from you guys. If you were invited to the British Open, and it was kind of expensive, and you know, would you and my boy Corey Yoshimuro Yoshimuro is over in, I don't know if he's watching right now. He'll listen to the podcast if he's not. He's over in Tokyo, and the greatest guy in the world. There he is. He's just on there. Corey's on.
Listen, Corey, here's
Corey
the thing.
says, just do it, Blaine.
It's like this setup. It's Corey's going to get you free tickets that are going to cost you $5,000.
That's the key.
In airfare. Although you got the miles, you could do it.
I know. It's just like the airfare and the logistics are tough, but I'm just like, Corey's taking care of me. That's my guy right there.
I'm trying to become Corey's new friend so I can go to the Masters. Corey, I just want you to know I'm all in.
We love you, Corey, and I appreciate the invite, and I got to figure it out. I'll call you. Well, it's in the middle of the day over there.
The cool thing is that Corey's in Japan.
It's in the middle of the day tomorrow in Japan right now. And how about that Corey's on with us from Japan? He gets the award every week when he can join us for being the furthest away and coming in on Twitch with us on the live stream. I love it.
10 a.m.
So it's 10 a.m. over there. Is awesome. So thanks for being with us, Corey. And we'll have to talk tomorrow live and figure out how I'm going to make my way to the British.
Other news and notes around campus, and there are a lot of them, and let's get you up to speed. The USA Outdoor Track and Field Championships just wrapped up in Eugene. Top 3 finishers qualify for the World Athletics Championship as part of Team USA. And this last weekend, this is the best in America, professional and amateur. So the college kids that just won their national titles were going up against the best of the best to try and make Team USA. And we congratulate Courtney Wayment. She was on our program the other day, finished number 2 in the steeplechase. She beat her own record by 4 seconds.
So she set the NCAA collegiate record and broke that record. And you remember we had her on. This was the all-champion show because we had Ashton on with us as well, who had won the NCAA championship in the javelin. She broke that record by 8 seconds, and then she went out 2 weeks later in the U.S. Championships and broke that record by 4 seconds. You don't break those records by 8 and 4 seconds. It is an incredible performance from Courtney, who's a Cougar, and also a Davis Dart.
So she's going to the Worlds. Dallin Schertz finished number 2 in the discus, so he'll move on and represent the country. Some other big names. Connor Mance, national champion 2 times. Ashton Reiner, who was on with us, national champ. Anna Camp-Bennett. Whitney Orton, national champ. Zach McWhorter and Cameron Bates. Some came really close, but that group did not get in the top 3. Can you imagine how hard it is to get in the top 3 of the best so you can be on Team USA and go? But a shout-out to all the competitors, and then we salute Courtney and Dallin for making the squad.
And that's awesome. And Ashton, who came on the show, she's got a special place in our hearts now because she came on with us. She finished 4th, 1 out. But remember when we talked to her, she was telling us, there's so many things that I have to fix. I can do this, I can do that. Because she had to recover for almost a whole year in rehab from Tommy John surgery. And all she did was go out and win an NCAA championship. The sky is the limit for her. You mark my words. She's going to be throwing that javelin in Paris in the next Olympic Games.
Next year she'll go for a back-to-back national title.
And Courtney is going to be running the steeplechase in Paris in the Olympic Games. How about that?
I'm looking forward to that. Women's soccer, speaking of a global reach, BYU's Laveni and Davinia Vaca going to compete for Tonga's World National Team next month at the OFC Nations Cup starting July 13th in Fiji. That tournament will decide whether Tonga earns a spot in the FIFA Women's World Cup. The Vaca twins are from Sandy, Utah. We wish them the best. BYU Season Openers August 13th at North Carolina, but these two are going to represent Tonga.
That's pretty cool. Very, very cool.
And they're just part of this dominance of women's sports at BYU.
Yeah, and BYU's Dell Universe put out some amazing statistics this last athletic year around the women's athletic program. They talk about soccer, volleyball, basketball, and softball. They didn't even include track, which we've highlighted the last couple of weeks.
These numbers are mind-boggling.
Yeah. So overall, soccer, volleyball, basketball, and softball went 117 and 21. That's 84.8% winning percentage. In the WCC, they went 56 and 5 for a 91.8%, and at home they went 63 and 5 in all of those sports, 92.7%. And you throw the track team in, the women's track team finished in the top 10 at the NCAA, so that's another top 10 finish for women's track.
And gymnastics was in the top 15, I believe, in the national ranking.
You think about BYU's women's program is across the board ready to go into the Big 12 and compete at the highest level. BYU soccer can play with anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Those numbers are numbing because they played good teams. Soccer went to the national championship game.
Well, remember, the defending national champ
shootout
was from the WCC the year before.
Yeah.
In Santa Clara. So the BYU's women's program is in phenomenal shape to go into the Big 12. We don't talk about that enough. They're ready to roll.
Ashley Hatch, who was phenomenal at BYU, is now on the United States women's national team. She's on the pitch tonight. They're playing Columbia up in Sandy at Rio Tinto Stadium in a friendly. Mm-hmm. And she, I believe I saw, was going to be in the starting lineup tonight, and that's coming up in about 45 minutes. So it's great to have the national team
and
here.
You can watch that, right?
At 8 o'clock, we'll switch over and watch Ashley. And all she does is kick goals. In every game, it seems like she's found the back of the net. So further evidence of the dominance of this women's program. Baseball made some moves this week.
Yeah, I was just head coach Trent Pratt named Brent Harding.
Herring.
Yeah, I'm losing my mind, and I know him well. He's a gym buddy. He lifts at Vasa, where you used to lift.
Yeah, don't go there anymore.
No, I know. You just
too many people.
No, you go to the country club. You go to the country
so
club.
He's the associate
and you do yoga.
Head coach. Yeah, I've done some of that.
He's now named as the associate head coach. He coached with Pratt at Dixie State as assistants with Mike Littlewood, and when Littlewood took the job in 12, he brought both of them with him, and so they'll stick together.
I'm glad. That's good.
He's also done some work. His wife is of Samoan heritage, and so American Samoa's baseball team, he's coached that team as well. So some great ties, family ties through his wife to American Samoa, and he's done a lot for baseball down there.
And they're out recruiting and getting ready for one last season in the WCC, and then off to the Big 12, which is a really good baseball conference as well. Jimmer Fredette, what does he share in common with Floyd Mayweather? The bad boy boxer out of Las Vegas and Jimmer, they now have kind of a partnership. You could almost say Jimmer works for Floyd Mayweather, and I asked Jimmer today on Sports Nation, I go, I never thought I'd ever say that.
He's working for, so Floyd Mayweather sponsoring the team. So you see these initials, TBT, the basketball tournament. It's something that's been around since 2000. When did this thing start? I'm trying to remember how many years now, but it's $1 million winner take all in a basketball tournament. You put a team together and you come in. Jimmer's played in it before. So Floyd Mayweather is sponsoring the money team
because it's Money Mayweather,
right? Money Mayweather,
yeah.
And Jimmer's on the team. They're the number 1 seed in the Dayton region. They're going to face the 8th seeded Athletics Miami on Sunday, July 25th. I was just trying to figure out who's on the money team. I was going to look that up this afternoon.
So I told Jimmer, I said, look, if you get in a fight with Floyd, don't let him establish the jab because that's how he won all his fights.
Oh yeah. Here's the thing:
you got to just keep moving.
If Floyd's there with them, no other team's going to pick a fight with them. He'll just be dropping fools if they start a fight with Floyd Mayweather.
And there's a handful of Cougs in that tournament. I believe Averett's in there, Celius is in there. Zach might be on Jimmer's team.
I'm just looking who's in here. So you've got Anders Jacobson, shooting guard, Brandon Crawford, Oh, Brandon's going to be an
That's
assistant.
a longtime
He's gonna
friend
be
of
assistant
Jimmer's.
coach. Chad Wiggins, Corey Davis, Dijon Kravich, Eddie Davis, E.J. Gallup, Jackie Carmichael, Jimmer Fredette, Jordan Crawford, Peyton Aldridge, Tarico White. Oh, T.J. Fredette. That's right. T.J. always does play with Jimmer. T.J.'s more of a rapper than a player.
He's more of a rapper than a player.
But Trevor Booker and Xavier Munford.
So you win $1 million. They have 64 teams. They start Pioneer Day, and we wish him well. We asked Jimmer about his future. He said, I'm not sure. He's got 3 kids now. Mm-hmm. The newest is just 6 weeks old. He and Whitney, they've got their hands full. He said he's playing a boxing one as a dad, trying to figure it all out. He is fortunately, I have a lot of experience being boxed in one, and so. Anyway, got a smile on his face. He's hoping to go play here and have some fun. It's been a while. He didn't play professionally this year because he needed to be home with Whitney and the new arrival, and so he's eager to get back.
Well, he made an unbelievable mark in the league over in China, playing for the Shanghai Sharks, and people loved him across the country. He was like a national celebrity over there. Played for Yao Ming's team, right?
Yeah.
And he had great endorsement deals and did so much. He was just a great representative of BYU over there, and did a great job. But so at some point it's time to be home. And Whitney didn't go over with him with the kids because when you
COVID and all that stuff.
Well, and you go on the road in that league, you go on the road for weeks at a time. And so she's going to be in a foreign land where she doesn't speak the language all by herself while Jimmer goes on the road. Just didn't make any sense. So that gets hard after a time, and
it's not a money thing now for Jimmer, and so you got to decide just how much you love it. But we'll follow him in the basketball tournament on the money team.
We were talking about this the other day, this NIL stuff, right?
Yeah.
And we'll cover this in another show. But can you imagine if the NIL deals were around when Jimmer Fredette was playing?
It'd be nice.
Like Jimmer's the kind of guy that could have commanded a $5 or $6 million NIL deal. Yeah. He was a national story. Like people just couldn't take their eyes off him. And he would have been worth a lot of money in an NIL deal.
Timing is everything.
Yes, it is. So.
Alex Barcelo on the Toronto Raptors Summer League roster as he tries to find a spot in the NBA. Worked out for a bunch of camps leading up to the draft. The Vegas Summer League starts July 7th. His first game's July 9th against the Sixers. Yoli Child's going to play in the Summer League.
That's right. The Jazz added Yoli to their roster for their Summer League. He played for the Salt Lake City Stars this last year, which is owned by the Jazz, so a farm club, so to speak, for the Jazz. They host their own Summer League here July 5th through 6th. It's a 6-game round-robin tournament before they head to Vegas. Yoli will face the Thunder and first-round pick Chet Holmgren on Tuesday, July 5th.
Well, that'll be a fun matchup.
Yeah. And so it'll be BYU and Gonzaga all over again. Chet was the number 2 pick in the NBA draft, right?
Yeah, he's got to put some weight on. We'll see how
he's unbelievably skilled. And people call him Kevin Durant the second. We'll see. That's a big that's a lot to live up to, right?
Yeah. Former Cougar Eric Mika named to the USA Basketball World Cup qualifying team. Their camp's already underway in Miami. Eric's first game's Friday against Puerto Rico and then on July 4th against Cuba. So he's found a way to – did you see Bleacher Report put out a tweet today. Did you see that on the highest paid players for this upcoming season in the NBA?
Oh, no, I didn't see it.
Steph Curry is going to make $48.1 million for this season.
Worth every penny.
James Harden, $47.4 million.
I'm not sure he's worth that.
Russell Westbrook's going to make $47.1 million this season. And LeBron is next on that list of top 4 with 44.5. So between Westbrook and James, the Lakers, who didn't even make the playoffs, are paying out $91.6 million.
It's crazy. It's like monopoly money. Hey, the only one that earned that money last year was Steph.
Yeah, I know, and I know how you feel about him.
Yeah,
and he's all justified.
I know. He earned my respect.
Best player in the world.
Yep.
No question.
No question about it.
All right, we're a couple minutes away from Zach's Super Six. There's a couple other notes I thought were interesting that we wanted to pass on. A future guest on this show, Gary Scheide's going to join us next week. He's fishing back in Minnesota where he disappears every summer.
Is he going to join us from Minnesota?
He's going to join us from Minnesota.
Is this going to be like a fishing show?
He's going to. We have pictures of these fish. I don't know if they're photoshopped or not, but we'll show you, and you can decide for yourself. And then we're guaranteed some fish stories from the quarterback that Jim McMahon told me last week was the guy who started it all at BYU.
So can he? Obie Gray says Gary's a fisher of men. No, he's actually catching regular fish.
He's a fisher of fish.
He's a fisher of fish, which I'm not sure is as glorious. But he needs to take his phone out to the lake with him and do it right from the lakeside and fish while he's talking to us.
We'll see. It'll be dark back there, I think, in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's next week. It's going to be awesome. You got questions for...
It stays light in Minnesota till 11 o'clock at night in the summer.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's all good.
Maybe we'll ask him to get on the boat and do that. Future guests on this show on July 12th, Scott Warner, the CEO of Gig, will be here in studio. We're going to talk about NIL deals. Yeah. They're a company who has an NIL deal with players.
Right.
We've talked about BYU's relationship with businesses. He's going to explain how it works from a business and their relationship with BYU. We'll also talk about how social media has changed the game for college athletes. And he's a big cereal guy, so we're going to debate some cereal as well.
But it'll be good for him to help us all understand better how these deals get put in place and what, if any, guidelines there are around them, and how a company, if they want to get involved, gets involved, how it benefits the company and the play. It will be a fascinating discussion because he's right at the forefront of it. I'm really excited to have him on.
And he's coming in here. He's coming in here because he wants to. Because I want to come in.
I love it.
We'll do it.
It's going to be fun.
July 19th, the 17th governor of the state of Utah and former Orem High School quarterback Gary Herbert will be live on The Wise Guys.
What's more important, that he was the governor for all those years, that he went to Orem, or that we play golf with him?
Well, we did have lower taxes, so let's think about that. But we do play golf with him.
And I'll tell you, Governor Herbert can play golf. He is a good golfer.
Hey, we wish Philly star Bryce Harper a speedy recovery after breaking his right thumb. Got hit by a pitch Saturday in San Diego. He's hoping to be back in mid-August. One of my favorite pictures that I've seen on Instagram is when he and his wife were up in Salt Lake and presented President Nelson with a jersey from the Nationals, which I thought was awesome. And so Harper's banged up, and we wish him a speedy recovery. And Danny Ainge got some things done today.
Yeah, Danny Ainge hired a new coach. And is it any surprise that it comes via the Boston Celtics?
No,
right?
That's what he knows.
Yeah, assistant Will Hardy is to be the new head coach of the Jazz, according to a variety of reports. Hardy is 34, so he'll be the youngest head coach in the NBA.
How do you think that's going to work with the soap opera between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and the head coach is 34?
Here's the thing. I think the head coach is just part of that. And I think that Danny can have some big influence on that. I think the whole Dwayne Wade can have some influence. Dwayne Wade's a respected superstar. Danny was a respected player, coach, general manager. I think it's going to take more than the coach to settle that feud and to get that thing settled down and get that team chemistry back.
I still think there's one of those guys is not going to be there.
That's very, very possible.
Because the trade season hasn't even started. I think that starts on the 1st.
The Jazz didn't even have a draft pick. Everybody thought they'd trade into the draft. They didn't trade into the draft. So they have to have something up their sleeve.
Hey, I'm not protesting taxes.
Yes, you are.
I'm promoting low taxes. That's what I'm promoting.
You're protesting high taxes.
I like to think I'm promoting low taxes. But thanks for that comment.
No, that's good. That's
BYU
good.
Boy.
Dave doesn't really protest much, do you?
I promote.
You promote.
There's two ways to do it.
You promote low taxes.
I promote low taxes. And I also promote the governor's pardons when we play golf with Governor Herbert.
Yeah,
we had a bad shot. He'll give us a pardon.
So here's our question.
I love that.
When we were playing with him when he was governor, and he really had that power.
And the highway patrol was always out with us.
Yeah, they're always out there with us. So I would hit a bad shot, and he would go, I'm going to give you a governor's pardon on that. You get another shot. And I'm like, I don't even have to count it. And he goes, no, governor's pardon.
It's fantastic.
When you retire from the governorship, do you still have the ability to give a pardon like that? Because if
he still does.
Okay.
But we have to go look for our own lost balls because the highway patrol is no longer with us.
Yeah, that was always good because they would always find those.
So I love that he can do that because I need a lot of those.
Yeah, we need pardons.
So the governor will be here as we get into Pioneer Day celebrations that week.
Talk about a lot of things. First of all, Pioneer day. And, sports is part of the fabric of this state. This is a great sporting state.
Yeah.
All kinds of, whether it's outdoor sports, or the team sports that we talk about, individual sports. And Governor Herbert he's a sportsman himself, but he's a huge sports fan. It'd be great to have him in and talk about how sports shapes the culture of this state and how important sports are to that.
So tell your friends, we're here to stay here on the Wise Guys. WiseGuys.com is kind of the hub. And we've got our podcast, which will be up from this show tomorrow or the next day. But you can find all our podcasts already up there. And we got some great guests. And then that week takes us into the season premiere of After Further Review. We have to decide which former great running back we want to have on to talk about Tyler Algier on the 26th. And then the teams here in practice for the following week. And then it's the countdown to the season
We'll give
opener.
you some camp reports each week and talk about who's looking good and who's not. And
break down the opponents.
Yep, we'll start doing that. We'll give you previews of games. We're not that far away from that.
No.
When we started this thing, how many weeks ago?
6, I think.
We thought, we got to figure this thing out, and we appreciate all of you that come on with us every week and help us figure this thing out. But we got to figure this thing out in time to really get into it and roll our sleeves up as we get in fall camp. Well, that's not too far away.
No, and it's awesome that it's not too far away.
Now, I'm not sure we figured it out. Now, Jack and Jackson and DJ, they always had it figured out.
They're shaking their heads
These guys
most of our show.
Our guys over here always had it figured out. But Dave and I are just figuring it out. So
we're figuring it out, but we've got a great crew and a great setup. So be with us as we roll on. So we had Zach Wilson. Last week was Media Day, and Media Day was the day after our last show. So there was a lot going on Wednesday after our Tuesday show, and most of that's been documented in the Deseret News and BYU TV. But in that, I had a chance to interview Zach after the OTAs with the Jets.
Right.
And we rolled out his Super Six, we call it, memories of independence. And we all know them. We all lived through them. But let's roll out Zach's Super Six, and then at the end we're going to share a statistic that's going to blow your mind. So that's in just a few minutes. But now we're cranking into the backside of our show. Let's start with the Super Six. These are his Super Six, not our Super Six.
Right. You asked him you said, I need your 6 most memorable moments, the 6 biggest moments that you remember.
And so he went to the end of his freshman year in 2018, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Remember, we were all bummed out that we're playing in Idaho on Friday before Christmas on the blue turf because it wasn't our favorite, and we're playing Western Michigan. But something happened that day.
Yeah, I was bummed out. Gavin was playing in that game, and it was not warm up there. No. So it didn't seem like a bowl. But BYU wins 49-18 in that bowl game. But Zach went 18 for 18, 317 yards and 4 touchdowns.
A perfect game.
And Zach says he looks back on that game and in the film, and he wonders, what in the world was I thinking on a few of his throws? Like, he squeezed some balls into some tight spots, but we talk about being in the zone when the game slows down and you can just make every throw and every play. That was him. And you remember, you and I were talking, I was like, whoa, that reminded me of the Steve Sarkisian Fresno State game. This kid the light bulb just went on. I could literally physically see a bulb go on over his head. And I go, this kid just figured it out. His mind is now going to match his crazy physical skill set. And he's going to be phenomenal from this point forward. We talked about that before the next season, and then the next season he was ridiculous.
He said his receivers bailed him out on a bunch of throws. Aleva Hifo had a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
And so that's how he ended up an up-and-down game, 2018, the perfect game. And it stole the ESPN ticker thing through the whole bowl season. It's like that BYU guy, that freshman, threw a perfect game in college football. All right, so then we go to 2019 and that double overtime game against Tennessee. That one was on the top of his list. BYU won it 29-26. But it all goes down to a play with 18 seconds left, 3rd and 6 on their own 16-yard line in front of 100,000 fans.
It's crazy. He drops back, and we're thinking, can they get a ball out there 15 yards and get out of bounds? Oh, no. Inexplicably, Tennessee lets Micah Simon run behind the defense. Zach spots him, launches this thing 64 yards downfield for a completion. setting up Jake Oldroyd's game-time field goal as time expired. And then BYU goes on and wins in overtime.
And the place is stunned.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. It's like you go back there to Max Hall and Austin Collie.
That's the last time I remember that. 4th and 18.
It's like, how does Utah let him get behind the defense? How does Micah Simon get behind the Tennessee defense? And then in the overtime, BYU scores a touchdown. Zach throws a pass to Talon Shumway. Tennessee scores. Then they go into double overtime. Tennessee kicks a field goal. And then Tyson Williams literally, with that offensive line, moves everybody into the end zone. And they win it. And Zach said this game was the first time he was really nervous. He says it was the first time he had true jitters because it was an SEC stage. It was all those fans. They were underdogs. And he was like, hey, yeah, I had the jitters. I was out of my mind. Yeah. And then that's how it ended.
Which is interesting that he played as a freshman, but never really bothered him. But this game was the first one where he actually maybe felt the butterflies or the jitters, which is cool. You got to feel those.
Number 3 in his Super 6 following week.
Yeah, this is think about back-to-back. BYU goes on the road and beats Tennessee, and then they come home, BYU 30. Number 23, USC, 27 in overtime. Tennessee and USC back-to-back weeks. You've got to be kidding me. And back-to-back, it's a double overtime game followed by an overtime game. And Zach throws for 280 yards and a touchdown. He also runs for a 16-yard touchdown in this one. And Diane Gonwaloko intercepts in overtime to seal the win. The crowd storms the field.
Remember, we were doing the post-game show down on the field?
Yeah, we were down on the field.
Everyone's surrounding us. They bring Zach over. They bring Kalani over, and ABC's off the air, so we're on the air for our post-game. And it was just, you kind of looked around, and it was just madness. It was like 1,000 degrees. If you remember, it was a hot day. But you look around and you go, these are the moments. These are the moments that programs are built by, and that fans will always go, remember that time we ran down onto the field, ran over by the broadcasters, celebrate, and we beat USC?
I remember thinking, this is what everybody hoped for when they declared independence.
Yeah. Was
that they would have back-to-back overtime wins against Tennessee and USC. You'd have USC in Provo, and we're there with fans just surrounding us, doing the interview with both Kalani and with Zach. And remember, Zach was just a sophomore at that point. What a phenomenal win that one was. And they stymied USC defensively. That offense that was supposed to be prolific and everybody thought would come into BYU and put 50 points on the board, held them to 27 in overtime.
Dr. Ketch, Governor Herbert's going to be on July 19th to answer your question. All right, so then Zach goes to his 4th of the Super 6. BYU's number 15. This is the COVID season. They're on Friday night down in Houston. Houston's supposed to be pretty good. And the Cougs put on a show. It was the Cougs against the Cougs. But one thing Zach said was this was the first game where they actually had a bunch of fans. And he said that meant everything to the players because they'd been in pretty much quiet stadiums.
Right.
Anyway, they go down to Houston on a Friday night with the nation watching because there's not a lot of football on. And Zach puts on a show.
Yeah, and this was in October, so they finally had fans, right? And, man, we'd all experienced that. He throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game. And who can forget he hit Dax Milne on a 78-yard touchdown pass on the first offensive play of the game.
And I remember that ESPN, it was game 2 of a doubleheader, and the first game went a little long. And so they get to the studio, they wrap it up, cut to the studio. They throw right out to the game in Houston. Just as the ball is snapped to Zach and he throws that bomb for a touchdown. You couldn't ask for a better moment right out of the gate on national TV than hitting Milne for the touchdown.
And I don't know that I've ever seen BYU play better than they did in the second half of that game.
Yeah.
I mean, they went on a roll and just became unstoppable. They end up beating Houston 43-26, but they scored 29 unanswered points in the second half.
What was your favorite play?
The 78-yard touchdown.
How about the Chiefs?
Oh,
How about the Chiefs
the
to
Chiefs play.
Mason Wade?
I forgot about that. Mason, that's right.
And Patrick Mahomes tweets after the game.
That's right.
That was one of their plays. And
yeah, that's awesome. That's right. The toss, the underhand Chiefs toss.
You know, Houston wasn't the same after that game. The first half, they were flying high. And then BYU had all this confidence This was their first big road test.
Right.
They go down there and beat Houston. Well, they got another road test coming at a place where they'd never won before, up on the blue turf. BYU's number 9, Boise's number 21, and this is a big showdown on Fox.
And this game wasn't close.
No.
Like BYU, and we've determined I can say crap on this show. Yeah. BYU literally beat the crap out of Boise State in this game. It was never close. 51-17. Crazy. And Zach throws for 360 yards, 3 touchdowns. He ran for another one. BYU was up 45-3 in the third quarter, Dave.
Yeah.
In that game. I mean, it was unbelievably
the worst
dominating.
beating Boise State's had at home since like the 70s.
Yeah, and why does Zach was telling you why that game was so important?
Because they hadn't won. He said the team talked about it. No BYU team had won on the blue turf, and they were sick of it. And, of course, Boise loves to defend their blue turf. And Zach said, we knew we were a better team. We thought we could just go out there and blow them out, and we did. Now, there's a footnote to this game that's got nothing to do with Zach, but has everything to do with Cade Fennegan.
Right, because Cade got in that game. They had quarterbacks go down with injuries. Cade got in the game, played actually pretty well.
Threw 2 touchdowns.
When he was in the game.
Played so good that Aaron Roderick's across the way going,
you know what?
How'd we lose this kid? His dad played here?
Yeah, and he wanted to come to BYU. If you'll remember, Cade Fennegan chose Boise State over USC because Boise State had offered him and hung with him while he was on his mission.
Yeah.
USC had a coaching change. They started to look at his film while he was on his mission, called his dad and said, hey, listen, we've got the staff assembled now, and we know we didn't offer him before, but we want him to come to USC now. We're going to offer him to come to USC. His dad contacted Cade through the mission office, and Cade just said, you know what, I committed to Boise State, and I stick with my commitments. And you say, well, he left Boise State and went to BYU.
Where'd Brian Harsin go?
But he only left after the guy he committed to took a job down in the SEC.
Yeah.
So the coach left. Cade felt like, okay, now that's the person I was committed to. And Aaron Roderick said, that kid looked pretty dang good. He's turned down USC. He's a kid of commitment. Let's get him up here. He looked really good in spring ball. So he and Jake have battled for that backup quarterback spot.
I wrote a story about that journey in the Deseret News, and you can find it at Deseret.com. But his dad was a transfer to BYU from, I want to say, like South Carolina or Clemson, from Clemson.
Clemson.
And he's a backup quarterback, never really got to play because, Ty Detmer's here. Mm-hmm. So he's on the sideline watching Ty Detmer. And he said that Ty would just take charge. And in the quarterback rooms with Norm Chow and this and that, Chow would ask a question, and Ty would teach everybody what's going on and how to play the game. And then it was years later that Ty, as the offensive coordinator, went to the Fennegans to talk to their folks about Cade, and he's told them that they weren't going to offer because they had Dinkelman coming in, Ty's nephew, and Jaron Hall was committed, and they weren't going to offer another quarterback. But Ty was there to explain, here's why, and this is how this is going on. And now there's some changes after that with Ty at that spot. And Dinkelman didn't come to BYU. He went somewhere else. Tanner McKee was also heading this way. He went to Stanford. But in this small world of you got Fennegan's dad as a teammate of Ty's, and then years later Ty's at his house to talk to him about his son. And after it all worked out, his son now is at BYU as the backup quarterback. And that game against Boise State, that was huge for Fennegan, even though at the time, playing against a team he grew up dreaming of playing for, he's playing against them. He had no idea that he'd be suiting up in blue and white, but here he is.
Yeah, and it gives BYU depth at a position where they have to have it. And if BYU is really going to be in the quarterback business, they have to have multiple guys. You have to recruit over the top of one another. That's the way they've always done it. And the only way you do that is if you start producing NFL guys. When you and I in the parking lot the other night were talking to Gifford Nielsen, one of BYU's all-time greats, Elder Nielsen.
Yeah.
And Giff was saying, I feel like BYU's back in the quarterback business. He says, I remember when I'm in practice, and who's pushing me every day? 2 first-round draft picks. Because he had Giff and Mark and Jim, coming up behind. Like, it was just like, it was always the next one in the assembly line was coming, and they were always pushing each other in practice, and everybody's getting better. And there was never any question that when one went on, the next was going to step in. If Jaron Hall can play the way I think he's going to play this year, and likely goes out, and he's projected anywhere from a first to a third round draft pick now. I think he finds himself in the first or early second when it's all said and done if he stays healthy. And so then the next guy has got to step up. Is that Jacob Conover or is it Finnegan? I think both of these guys can play, but that's what you've got to have.
And then you got the kid from Springville.
Yep.
Who's going to be at some point.
And he's a phenomenal talent, but he's a mission kid first. So he'll go out on a mission and come back. But when you start to produce multiple NFL guys, then you're out recruiting players, and they don't go, am I going to start as a freshman? You go, no, you don't need to start as a freshman here. You come in, and you back up and learn from an NFL guy, and then you become the NFL guy. You only need to play for 2 years or 1 year here, and you're an NFL guy. That's what Zach did. That's what Jaron did. That's the business we were in. When I came out here, and they were recruiting Sean Salisbury and Robbie Bosco and all of us, and I'm the player of the year in New York. Robbie's the Northern California player of the year. Sean Salisbury's the national player of the year. And we're all thinking we're coming here because we knew if we could hit the jackpot and earn that job, we're going to the NFL. BYU's right on the verge of getting back to that.
Think about this. Mark Wilson's a first-round draft pick. Jim McMahon is first-round draft pick, next quarterback.
Right.
And then there's and Steve went to the USFL, or he'd have been
the number one pick.
So Zach Wilson, first-round draft pick, next quarterback Jaron Hall, and today one of the ESPN writers projected him the 9th overall pick of the draft, Jaron Hall. So, it's just a pick, and there's a lot of football to play, but BYU hasn't put back-to-back quarterbacks as first-round picks since the glory years.
Right.
And it's like we're kind of in glory years. And if they do that, every quarterback in the country that wants to get into the NFL as a first-round draft pick at least has to look at BYU. They won't all come, and some will go to Alabama and some of the NIL deals that are $10 million. But if you want a job in the NFL and they go, he went in and then the next guy went in, I want to be a part of that process. I can get in if I go there.
Yeah, and that's the deal. That's why you come even if they've got a guy. Because you're in a position where you're going, well, this is a perennial NFL producing quarterback factory. Because kids are out there going, am I going to start as a freshman? Am I your guy right now? And BYU, if you get back-to-back first-round draft picks, you go, listen, you don't need to play as a freshman here. Like Zach had to, Jaron didn't, because he backed up Zach. You sit behind the good guy, and then you play for you have one great year here, because Zach was really good as a sophomore, but he was phenomenal as a junior, and he goes out. Jaron was really good as a sophomore. Jaron's numbers, we'd have to look at them side by side, probably better than Zach's as a sophomore. If Jaron has a phenomenal junior year, he's going out.
Yeah. And
so you recruit and you say, listen, you don't need to come in here and worry about if you're going to play right away, because the answer is no, because you got a first-round draft pick that's probably going to play in front of you, and then you're going to be a first-round draft pick.
So that's where I think Jackson Dart made a mistake. Didn't want to sit behind Jaron Hall, and Ole Miss is saying, hey, you can play right now. Whether or not he's going to play as a starter remains to be seen.
Right.
And whether or not he would have been better than what BYU has, it's a moot point at this point. But his beef was, I don't want to sit behind anybody. I want to play. And it's like, that's not always your best interest.
Right. And Jackson's a phenomenal
player. Even McMahon sat a year.
He didn't want to. But he did. And remember, Jim played some as a sophomore and was really promising. And Jim, he thought he was better than Mark. And you know what? And in college, he probably was. Their 2 senior years. But Lavelle knew he had 2 first-round draft picks. So, and Jim was 1 year behind. And he's like, how do I separate these 2 guys out? I think I have 2 first-round draft picks. I'm going to play Mark, and then Jim is going to redshirt. And Jim did not like it. But it worked out for everybody. Now you had 2 first-round draft picks back-to-back. Jim played 2 years. That redshirt year separated them. But you remember when Jim was here this last week, he was telling us the story about how right up until the Texas A&M game, they're like, we may not be redshirting you. You got to get ready to play because Mark's got appendicitis. You may have to play. And then Mark came off of the hospital bed to go win on the road at A&M.
And that was the first live game on KBYU,
That's right.
1979, in Rice Stadium in Houston, because something was going on at A&M.
That's right.
And a 2-point conversion won the game 18-17. Who caught that? Because I met him at Danny Plater's funeral.
Mike Lacy.
Mike Lacy.
Mike Lacy, the tight end.
He caught the 2-point conversion. One of the biggest catches in the history of BYU football, which doesn't get the props that it deserves. But even Jim said that win right there
legitimized
BYU on the
Yeah,
map.
it was like, wait, BYU beat
A&M
Texas
was like
A&M?
ranked third or something like that.
And they were a perennial power. So that was like, hey, BYU can play with the big boys. So Jim did redshirt. They separated him. And so Jim really just played 2 seasons. His junior year, right after his redshirt year, he broke 70-plus NCAA records that year.
Seemed to work out.
It's a ridiculous year.
It seemed to work out. The immediate payoff, doesn't always – it's not always the way to go. As a freshman, we've seen freshmen come into BYU ranked number 1 in the country. Would it have killed him to have 2 years to figure it out? But Jake Heaps was thrown right in there, and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah,
and BYU's never had a higher-rated quarterback.
Yeah, Jake is one of the top quarterback coaches in the country right now. Works with a bunch of NFL guys.
Yeah, he's with the Broncos now.
And does a phenomenal job. It was almost a disservice to Jake to throw him to the Wolves as a freshman. It's just hard to play as a freshman, especially in BYU's offense, which is made like an NFL offense. You were talking to Zach Wilson the other day, and he pointed that out, that BYU's offense prepared him, the kind of reads that he had to make, the type of calls, what they're asking him to do. Some of these colleges will play a freshman, but they do these little progression reads. You just go 1, 2, 3. Just hit the guy that's open. First guys, we're going to go deep to short on this one. On this particular route, we go short to deep. Just progression reads 1, 2, 3. Where BYU's saying, hey, want you to read the defense. On this throw, all curls, it's inside out, away from the Mike linebacker, if it's zone. If it's man, you're going to isolate this guy. And so you're reading defenses like you do in the NFL. And that takes time, but it prepares quarterbacks to play in the NFL. And it's hard for a freshman to play in that system.
And then when adversity comes, and it hit Jake his sophomore year, because he had some big games his freshman year. Mm-hmm. It finished the bowl game, lit up New Mexico State, but it was New Mexico State. When adversity came, you know what? He could have used another year to get ready for it, and then who knows? That's the funny thing about the game. All right, number 6. Zach's Super 6. Here's number 6. Number 16, BYU. They go to the Boca Raton Bowl. They don't want to be there. Remember, this is after they beat San Diego State, which came after they got beat at Coastal Carolina. They wanted to be in – they were planning to get into the New Year's Six. So they weren't thrilled with Boca Raton, but they were okay with Central Florida because they had a quarterback who led the country in total offense. And they're playing – in Florida, so they're kind of the home team, even though the crowd was limited. But Zach said going into the game, he knew that it was going to be his last game. He already knew he was coming out. And so he was nervous because he wanted to go out right. He said he worked hard that whole week because he hadn't announced it to anything, but he knew this was going to be his last hurrah. And then he went out and he put on a show. It was crazy.
BYU put on a show in that game. I talk about that second half of the Houston game. In the last couple of years, this may be the most complete game BYU played. They were so good in this football game. They were great in that Boise State game, but Central Florida was one of the most prolific offenses in the country, and they were healthy. That receiving core that they had on that offense is as fast as a group as any team BYU's ever played. And BYU figured out a way to match up with them and to play great defense, and the offense just looked unstoppable. Zach threw for 425 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 2 touchdowns and just cemented himself as a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his pro day moved him all the way up to the number 2 pick.
The made-for-TV movie, and he got to write the script.
Some of the throws that he made in that pro day over in the indoor practice facility were just out of this world. But, people took note. Central Florida was a quality team, and BYU literally manhandled
put 49 on them.
49 to 23.
Listen to this stat. This is his numbers through his Super 6. They were great moments for him, but then I started doing the math, and I'm like, wait a second here. So in those 6 games that we just spotlighted, Zach was 130 of 177, threw for 2,014 yards.
You know me, I got to figure that out.
16 touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns, and not 1 interception during those 6.
So he was 130
for 177.
That's almost 74%.
No picks, 16 touchdowns. He ran 4 touchdowns, threw for over 2,000 yards. 6 games.
It's an incredible run. Yeah. And BYU's offense was pretty much unstoppable. That whole hold his junior season before he went out. But
there's two quotes that I pulled from our interview from Media Day with Zach. His pitch to recruits considering BYU, he's got some very close to him that are considering BYU. And as you follow Twitter and all that, it feels like there are hundreds of people now considering BYU. But that quote I thought he had is pretty good.
He says, not only on the field, but off the field, you're just going to put yourself where you should be in life and what it's going to take to push you to do. On the field, there's not a better place for opportunity. I don't think you see more walk-ons or guys that really come from nothing or three-star recruits with not many offers like me have an opportunity to play big-time football against big-time competition. And he said, on the Big 12, I'm really excited for it. I feel the Big 12 is going to be good for us because it's a big-time conference, and I think of the talent we can get in there as well. It's been exciting all through independence, but I think it would be better for us to be in the Big 12.
What I like about that is Zach uses the word we and us.
Yep, still.
Because he's all in, and he's got some brothers on the team, and so the family's still in, which I think is great. And then I also liked in the first quote that you read, there's some maturity to Zach on hey, why should people consider BYU? Not only on the field, but off the field, you're just going to put yourself where you should be in life. And that pitch to a kid who's coming in cold turkey to an honor code where it's like, oh, that's different from the life that I know. But why would I want to come do that at BYU? Well, take Zach's words for it, and Zach's not a perfect kid. None of us are. But in his perspective, looking back, is, it helped me stay out of trouble. It helped me stay on the field, and both of those elements allowed me to become the New York Jets quarterback. Yeah, and that's some maturity, I think. And
BYU, that's BYU's recruiting pitch. They recruit the parents too, right? They say, listen, this is going to be a great place for your son to come play football because we're not just about winning. Now they can go win championships, right, because they're going to be in the league. It's not just about that. That's a big part of it. But it's about developing young men and preparing them for life. And Zach just echoes that right there. I think it's great. And you know what I like about Kalani? We talked about this at Media Day with Kalani. He does not shy away from saying, the kids that have the skill level, we also have a responsibility to prepare them to play in the NFL.
Right. Help them get a job.
Remember when we used to ask Bronco that? He's like, this is not our job. We don't even worry about that. And Kalani says, no, we're preparing the kids that don't get to the NFL for a job in real life, but we're preparing the kids that have the skill to play in the NFL. That's a huge part of what we do. He wants a bunch of them in the NFL, and it's only good for the program.
He's going to get a bunch.
Yep. He's
got a bunch in there already. All right, you ready for this day in history? As we wrap up our show tonight, there's a couple of interesting things. On this day in 1919, the Treaty of, I want to say Versailles, signed and formally ending World War I and creating the League of Nations. That happened on this day in 1919. You know what else happened on this day? 1997, Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear at the MGM in Las Vegas. 25th anniversary of my wildest night on the job.
You were there.
So we're ringside because that's where we sat when we covered fights for Channel 8 in Vegas. This fight had so much buildup. It was going to be held earlier, but I think Tyson's prison sentence got in the way. And anyway, it's finally happening. And Holyfield beats Tyson in the first fight. This is the rematch. So the two fights have finally happened. And they get in there, and Tyson gets headbutt, and he panics a little bit, and he bites Evander. And we're watching this, and Evander's jumping up and down, holding his ear. And Mills Lane, the referee's like, what just happened here? And they separate the fighters, and they go to the corner, and they realize, as Holyfield goes, he just bit me. And Mills Lane's like, okay, it's the biggest fight in the history of boxing. Are we calling this on this technicality? He talks to Mark Ratner, our friend,
right.
with the Boxing Commission. Then he goes over to Tyson. He says, I'm going to penalize you a point. You bite him again, the fight's over. So then they resume the third round. They get in there into a tussle again, and this time Tyson gets a hold of his right ear and bites part of it off, spits it out down onto the canvas. Holyfield's jumping up and down again. Now it's escalated. The fight's called off. Tyson's disqualified. Police pour into the ring. Tyson's fighting with them. He's trying to get to Holyfield over in his corner. Holyfield's over there with part of his ear missing. Meantime, a guy picks up the bitten off part of the ear and turns it over to health official. They tried to sew it back on at Valley Hospital that night,
my
and
goodness.
they couldn't do it. So we're sitting there, we're watching this, and we're watching the replay. Now, there's a fight in the ring with all of that going on. You got Holyfield and Tyson people fighting with each other behind us in the stands. And remember, there's a lot of money bet on this thing, and now all of a sudden it's ended like this. And the fight then pours out into the casino at the MGM. They close the casino, and they never like to do that. It's a Saturday night. Tables are overturned. People are stealing chips. We're out on the corner doing live shots, and I watched one ambulance after another come to this place, and then I interviewed a lady whose dress was all ripped, her and her date, because they literally crawled out of the arena.
Goodness.
Because they said someone fired a gun, and then the MGM said, no, that was champagne corks. Who's popping champagne?
Yeah,
in a
hey,
riot?
you know what? Let's celebrate. No, that was not champagne.
So,
Come on.
Anyway, all this is going on. Tyson's banned from performing, fighting at the MGM for a period of time. Of course, they invited him back.
Right, of course.
Yeah, that's how it goes. But all of that went down on this night, and they became friends over the years. There was even a shoe commercial where the doorbell rings and Holyfield opens the door, and there's Tyson. He says, "I'm sorry, Evander," and he presents him with a box. He says, "It's your ear. I'm giving your ear
that's
back."
right.
Then they hugged, and so that they've evolved, and Tyson's really matured and become his own guy, and Holyfield survived that night without biting him back. Was so bizarre.
And
This is the weirdest night in sports.
Evander, he's a religious guy, right? So I mean, he forgave him.
Yeah, he forgave him.
So,
Forgave him. And when you talked to him, I interviewed him a few years ago, that the right bottom part of his ear's gone.
You were there that night. Were
that.
you not also there the night that the guy parachuted into the ring?
That was another Holyfield fight against Riddick Bowe. Yes, flew right over our
And
head.
see, this is when you work sports in Vegas. You see all the crazy stuff.
This
that
was
happens.
outdoors at Caesar's Palace.
Right. I remember that.
A fan man, he was circling, and then he comes swooping in. They're like in the 7th round, and they're really duking it out. And then all of a sudden, Holyfield looks up, and there's a guy dangling from the HBO lights because his parachute got caught in the ring. And the two fighters stop, and everyone's just like, what just happened here? And the fan man who's passed away, not from that night, but he's since passed away. Anyway, he's over there by, I believe it was Farrakhan's group.
Oh, yeah.
And they grabbed him, and they beat the lights out of him. And he
That
actually
was
suffered
a nice way
injuries
to say it.
from those
Remember,
guys.
you can say they beat the crap out of him on this show.
He suffered more injuries from those guys than crashing into the ring.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I remember at the time you were just like, dude, you have to come to a heavyweight fight down here. Yeah. It trumps everything in terms of the environment. Like, you're like, yeah, Super Bowl, that's all fine and dandy. NCAA championship, that's great. You have to come to a heavyweight fight.
So I invited my dad down. Tyson was fighting Frank Bruno from England at the MGM. And I said, Dad, my dad was a bishop up this road here in Orem. And I said, you got to come down and see. So I'll get you passes if you'll fly down. And so he did. And picked him up, and we went to the fight. And we're sitting there watching the undercard down low, and Jack Nicholson walks down our row, so we move so he can go by. And then there's Don King and all this stuff. But we had to sit up high because I wasn't working the fight. We had to sit up a little higher for the fight. And I said, I want you to come down here. I want you to watch this Mike Tyson fight. But I want you, and we'll fly you back Sunday morning so you're there for a bishopric meeting, ward council. I said, when you have ward council, I want you to go around the room and ask everybody what they did last night. And then when it gets back to you, I want you to tell them you're at the Tyson fight in Vegas. I said, your street cred is going to shoot through the roof.
Go up big time.
And he did that, and Mike Tyson knocked Bruno out of the ring. And it was the first time that I was in an American venue at a sporting event where the national anthem was booed.
Oh.
Because they had 6,000 Frank Bruno fans from England over. And, it's not really a great song for England, let's be honest.
No, it's not.
And so they sing God Save the Queen, and then the national anthem's on, and they just thunderously boo.
Oh.
And so their guy comes out, and they cheer. And now Mike Tyson doesn't know why the arena, when he walks out, explodes in cheers for him. Because people would bet on Mike Tyson, but that doesn't mean they liked Mike Tyson.
No.
He was a thug back then. Anyway,
he's just a nice guy now.
he comes in to this thunderous roar and he knocks him out. But after the fight, he was asked about it, and he goes, I didn't know what happened. That's not how he said it. He goes, I don't know why I got that kind of reception. Then they explained it to him that their fans had booed the national anthem. Now all of a sudden, Iron Mike represented all of us.
He was America, man.
And he destroyed that guy. But anyway.
That's awesome. So,
right.
you've had some crazy things. So
Also on this day in 2007, the bald eagle was removed from the list of endangered and threatened species.
And we have them all, we see them down at the golf course all the time.
Yeah,
we have
eating
all
fish.
kinds of wildlife. We've got fox running around trying to take your golf ball and bald eagles in the trees.
Yeah. You know what? Well, let's tell the fox story next week.
We'll do that.
Number one song on June 28, 1985, Bryan Adams' Heaven. Number one movie, you go back 10 years, June 28th, Jaws.
Have you watched that lately?
No, I
loved that movie back then, but it seems really cheesy right now.
It is cheesy, but I won't watch it because my dad took me with my uncle. So it was basically me and the shark. I was 10. And I won't watch that movie.
Yep.
Scared the daylights out of me. So that was that. Birthdays today.
Yeah, Elon Musk's birthday today. How about that? Mel Brooks, John Elway, John Cusack, and the late Pat Morita.
Karate Kid.
Morita. Yeah, wax on, wax off.
Danielson. That was such a cool movie.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. See, that movie still has legs.
The Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3. And I think they remade Karate Kid, but I didn't watch that one.
Yeah.
This
karate,
one, the original one.
Karate, not here. Karate, here. So, hey, I got this.
All right,
played that part.
Let's finish this week's show with a quote from the great Lavelle Edwards. We end all our shows with a quote from the coach on why he didn't play at BYU.
Okay. If I'd gone to the Y, I would have had to live at home. And if I'd been living at home, my job would have been milking the cows. I was sick of milking those two darn cows. I'd have gone to Utah to get away from them. Well, maybe not to Utah, but I wanted to get away.
That's why he went to Utah State.
Maybe not to Utah. So.
He was sick of milking the cows. Yeah. He's in the Utah State Hall of Fame as a player. He's in the BYU Hall of Fame as a coach. He's in the NCAA Hall of Fame as BYU's coach. The Cougars and Aggies meet Thursday, September 29th at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. It's the last time they're scheduled to meet for a long time.
We don't know if they're going to play for a long time after that.
ESPN's got the game, pre- and post-game on BYU TV. But it seems like the perfect place for these two to play in the stadium named after the guy who played at one place, coached at the other, and is in both halls of fame.
Yep, absolutely. So,
hey, happy 4th of July holiday. We'll see you Saturday night at the Stadium of Fire.
Did you get me? I want to be backstage with you and Tim.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about that when you're after. Our podcast will be up for this show, and we had a great interview with Chad Lewis.
Yeah.
Just spectacular. You want to listen to that again and
What
again.
A great guy.
Gary Scheide, next week. Yep. Gary Scheide is our guest right here on The Wise Guys. He'll join us live from Minnesota, where he's wasting the entire summer fishing with his brother Greg. I don't know if he probably wouldn't like us to say wasting his entire summer.
Wasting is not a right word for fishing.
But it's fishing, and so that's what he'll be doing. And then we've got Scott Warner coming on the show, CEO of GIG, on July 12th. Governor Gary Herbert, former governor, on July 19th. So we got a loaded show coming up. Tell your friends. Log on to ysguys.com. Watch our podcast. Get onto Twitch so you can join us on the stream. And then we'll just build and build and build.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll see you.
Peace out.